Hiya, this is Mr. Singh here. Today we're going to be looking at reflection of waves, which is part of the AQA physics syllabus. But before we do that, there's 5 questions for you here. Have a go at these, please. Pause the video. Right, let's have a look. Number 1, you can self-assess these. What is bending of the light called? That's refraction. What's the difference between reflection and refraction? Well, refraction, we've already said, is where light bends when it enters a different material, and reflection is where light bounces back, like off a mirror. Number 3, why does light bend when it enters and leaves a prism? The speed changes. The speed, because the material and the air have 2 different types of densities, meaning the speed will change when it enters and leaves. Number 4, what is the imaginary line perpendicular to the prism called? It's called a normal. And number 5, what will happen to the incident ray entering a prism at 90 degrees? It passes straight through. No refraction, no bending takes place. Move on then. You can see we're looking at reflection of waves, and we need to have, there are 3 objectives there. So let's move on then. Just pause the video here. Write down anything you can think about reflection in a mirror. Okay, let's have a look. So once you've done that, this is a diagram you'll be expected to draw. You can see the dotted line, which is perpendicular to the mirror. That dotted line is called a normal. You can see the ray entering is called an incident ray, and the ray leaving is called a reflected ray. And you can see the angle there. That's angle. You can see angle of incidence, and you can see the angle of reflection, and that's the point of incidence. You will be expected to draw that. You'll have noticed something about the angle of incidence and angle of reflection. Now, this will be one of your required practicals. And when you do, how does the angle of incidence relate to the angle of reflection? Well, when you've investigated, what you should find is this. The angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection. And that's the law of reflection. You need to learn that. Now, there are 2 types of reflection. Specular reflection. This is when parallel waves are reflected and in a single direction by a smooth surface. So this would be something like a mirror. And a diffuse reflection. This is when the parallel waves are reflected by a rough surface and scattered at different directions. Let's test your memory. Can you draw the diagram to show specular reflection? Okay, let's move on then. Here's some questions for you to have a go. The diagram below shows the apparatus a student used to investigate the reflection of light by a plane mirror. So we're looking at a plane mirror here. So this will be specular reflection. The student drew 4 ray diagrams for each angle of incidence. The student measured the angle of reflection from each diagram, and the table below shows his results. And you can see that. Angle of incidence, and then test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4. For each angle of incidence, the angle of reflection has a range of values. This is caused by an error. What type of error will have caused each type? It's worth 1 mark. B, suggest what the student may have done during the investigation to cause each angle of reflection to have a range of values, 1 mark. And C, estimate the uncertainty in the angle of reflection when the angle of incidence is 50, worth 2 marks. So you can pause the video here and have a go at these 3 questions. Okay, if we move on then. So, it's a random error. There's the answer for B. And there's the answer for C. If we move on. D, the student concluded that for a plane mirror, the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. Explain whether you agree with this conclusion. 2 marks. Use examples. You must use some data to get you both 2 marks. E, what extra evidence could be collected to support the student's conclusion for 1 mark? And the final one, state one change the student should make to the apparatus if he wants to. Use the same method to investigate diffuse reflection. Pause the video here and have a go at these 3. Okay, let's have a look. There's your 2 marks. There's your 1 mark. And there's your other mark. And that concludes our lesson on reflection.